Well, it's come and gone. The 2021 Super Bowl has just been held, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have taken home the championship. But this year, the winner almost seems irrelevant as everybody focuses on how different this year's Super Bowl Sunday actually looked. The football event itself attracts millions of viewers who care little about the game itself. Most show up for the experience, from the halftime show to the amazing commercials during breaks. But this year, there were very few people in the stadium amidst the coronavirus pandemic, and divides in America were perhaps clearer than ever before. Well, joining us to break this down is entertainment expert Seth Schachner from Los Angeles. So first of all, tell us what made this year's Super Bowl stand out from years past.
Well, obviously, COVID was something that was, I wouldn't say a highlight, but was certainly the overlay that I think affected this thing more than anything, and it really probably in some respects will define it going forward. But, all that said, I think the league and everyone involved in producing the show, the talent, did a terrific job. It's really an achievement that they pulled it off, basically. So the game, I think, in some respects wasn't as exciting as all of us were hoping for. It was a real gunslinger, Mahomes versus a veteran, and Tom Brady and Gronk really pulled the game out and really crushed them. But I think the advertising this year, certainly the show from the weekend, and of course just all the protocols that were put in place at the venue during the week really set it apart in a good way. And the national anthem, the talent, I think it's a real credit to the league that they were able to do this. And,
right.
I would add the NFL did this without a bubble, and our NBA as well as the NHL did things quite differently, actually. So hats off,
Well, I mean, when you look at the stadium itself, it seemed full because they put up all those, I guess, cardboard faces. But let's talk about the highlights. What were the highlights this year?
Well, I mean, look, the talent was certainly a lot of fun. I think it was much more inclusive. I think the weekend, the halftime show was always sort of like the big entertainment highlight of it. It was, in my view, a great attempt to reach out to younger, more progressive audiences. I think the production of the show is getting a little bit of mixed reviews just because maybe it's a reflection of COVID. There were some elements of it that were sort of in this weird indoor space and marching and people with masks on. But I thought it was certainly a highlight. I think the advertising. There's so much. I'm just thinking about it this morning. It's like drinking from a fire hose. But the amount of advertising that was kind of thoughtful and creative and played to things like unity and just the pandemic and supporting local businesses were just really quite creative, even with some of the head scratchers in there.
Now, what were the lowlights? What were people not so happy about?
I don't know if there was some tremendous. I think probably the biggest low light was the offensive line of the Kansas City Chiefs, basically, that they couldn't hold the Patriots in. But on the advertising, I think some of the ones that were the real head scratchers there was an Oatly ad with the CEO sort of singing in a field that came off in a really weird way, actually, was probably the one that I think people are talking about the most, basically. There was a lot of, I guess, what you call house advertising for Paramount Plus, which is the streaming service. And that's, Viacom's the parent company, both to the network CBS as well as Paramount and other interests like MTV. So
right.
I wouldn't call it a low light, but that was definitely an oddball coming in there.
Now, it's been a rough year for the United States, and not just because of the pandemic. Race relations have been a huge issue of contention. I mean, how much could that be felt in this year's Super Bowl?
I think there was quite a bit of creative programming, certainly just starting with the national anthem, an R&B star meeting a country star, basically, that was designed to bring people together. So I wouldn't call it tension per se as much as respect and and a real attempt at unity, including even President Biden's message at the beginning of the game. So I thought that part was great, and there was just tons of it reflected in the advertising of everything from Daveed Diggs being in there to just all the different ads that were in there were really great. If you saw any of the automotive ads. The stuff with Will Ferrell and General Motors with us competing with Norway to have electronic vehicles, I thought was kind of hilarious. And there was some really touching stuff. Toyota had an ad with a Paralympian who had been adopted from Russia that was really touching. And State Farm had something super cool with Drake subbing in that really cut through the clutter. And I think it was the ability for some of these advertisements to sort of cut through all the clutter and resonate was really what stuck out with me. And there was there was 4 or 5 of them. I mean, the biggest was, I think, Bruce Springsteen has, historically never done advertising, so he did an endorsement of Jeep, but he did it in a very kind of organic, sincere way from a chapel in Kansas, and it was all about reuniting the United States, and right. I thought that also really cut through as well.
All right. Well, I mean, obviously, for those who weren't able to watch the event itself, you can still go online, look on YouTube, see the halftime show. I know I'm going to do that myself. Thank you so much for joining us and breaking that down.